go. Well, once again, it's a very big welcome to you. Everyone who's joining us on the line or listening to us, wherever you might be listening to us on your favourite streaming service. Welcome back. It's Natalie Ashdown from the Open Door Coaching Group, joined with our wonderful HR specialist, resident HR specialist, Paula Jones-Hunt. A good afternoon to you.
Still good morning for me in Perth, but thank you and thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome to everyone wherever you might be listening to this in your time zone. We're looking at the strengths-based approach to performance conversations today. I'm really energized by this conversation. Can't wait to get into it with you all. Before I begin, let me acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands on which we're meeting today, their continuing connection to the land, borders and communities of Australia, and all of our international guests. We extend our welcome to you, past, present and emerging elders from whatever community internationally that you are joining us from. Well, Paula, today we're talking about what do we mean by strengths. Now, I'm looking at all the people on the line. There's a lot of the Open Door Coaching alumni, great coaches on the line. So you will have heard some of this conversation before, but I think it's a really good reminder, actually. We are in annual performance conversations season. So what a great opportunity to talk about what do we mean by strengths? Why are strengths important during performance management conversations? And of course, let's generate some questions. Let's generate some coaching ideas together. I want to show you some of the research. A lot of you will have seen it before. But having said that, it's good to remind us, as I said, so that we can start generating questions that are strengths-based questions during our performance conversations. So as we always say, if you are new to this community, welcome. We come together at this time every Friday. We have the podcast available to you that you might be listening to. We are about creating shared learning experience, having thought-provoking conversations. The way that you can interact with us is via the chat box. And of course, we love to pick up everyone's experience with the Open Door Coaching alumni on the line. So please join us and add those comments as you feel free. And of course, if you are here for your ICF CCUs, yes, they are available at the end of the session. So with that in mind, I think we probably should talk about what do we mean by strengths. It can be quite misunderstood in the workplace. And sometimes I worry that people think, oh, you know, this is a bit airy-fairy. Oh, why are we talking about strengths? What happened to weaknesses? You know, we can't just all focus on the good things. But it's really important, I think, to get that definition going. And when we talk about strengths, we're talking about the characteristics or attributes that energize us in the workplace and enable us to achieve high performance. So an important conversation to have at this time of the year when we're entering into and we're doing those performance conversations, we really need to be talking about those things that energize the person, that enable high performance. And Paula, here we distinguish between job competency, because we all know there'll be parts of our job that don't particularly energize us, but we still have to do, we still have to get on with. What we're really trying to aim in terms of high performance is around what's going to really spark that motivation, and what a good conversation to have during performance conversations.
Yeah, and I think it is a really good distinction, because people can be very competent at doing things, but it does not bring them great joy. And so we're not talking about what are you competently able to perform. It's more about what energizes you and gets you excited and really drives the goals that you're working towards. And yes, for lots of us, there's parts of our jobs that we just get done, because getting done means but you wouldn't want to be doing those things all the time. That wouldn't want to be what's driving you moving forward. They're just the things that you need to get done for your job, and you're very good at them. That's great. But when we talk about strengths, it's then about how do we utilize those areas that really energize you and bring you engagement and enthusiasm to move forward with your goals.
Yeah, and we will talk about that more. Thank you for bringing it up, because as you're talking, I'm thinking about people in their job competency during this time of the year as well, particularly meeting expectations. So you're meeting expectations, you're doing your job, you're doing it really well. But if we really want to drive high performance in the workplace, we need to be linking that through to strengths. So I'm always keen to show people the following graphs, because these were the graphs that actually got us interested originally. And for those people that are listening online, you can pick up the visuals that I am showing on our blog over the next couple of days. But really, there's been research throughout the years. This one goes back almost 20 years, actually, talking about the impact of a formal performance review on employee performance. It is my favorite graph because it's the one that got me interested in strengths. And for those of you that can't see the visual, basically what it says is if we only focus on performance weaknesses during a performance review, we can expect a 26.8% decrease in performance. So the change in performance is a decrease in performance because we've only focused on performance weaknesses. We're only focusing on what the person hasn't done, that they haven't met expectations. Now, we will come back to that. We do have to focus on whether they've met expectations, whether people have achieved their goals, whether they have met their KPIs during these performance conversations. But as we've talked about over and over the past 4 weeks, this is not the only time that we're going to be having conversations. So the annual performance review is a summary of everything that's been happening, as opposed to the first time that we hear that we haven't met expectations and you're only focusing on my weaknesses. 26.8%, I could guarantee it's going to be higher, and those people are going to be looking for a new job, as opposed to that 36.5% uplift in performance if the annual performance conversation, if performance reviews are focused on strengths. Paula, we've seen this happen across the workforce. Sometimes I hear people that they might be a bit skeptical about this. So what do you kind of say to the skeptics? I want to say, well, the research speaks for itself. But I want to show you these further graphs as well that you might be able to talk to as well.
Yeah, and I think you raise a really good point too around what happens after the performance review. We know from statistics that a person's relationship with their manager is one of the key reasons for people to stay or leave an organization. So if you were already feeling trepidatious and you head into your performance review and you come out of that conversation feeling dejected and like nothing's going right, people are more likely to leave at that point. So the ability for managers to have great performance conversations can be directly linked to engagement and attrition and all of those lovely HR things that we love so much. And the conversation should be a summary of what's gone on for the past 12 months and being connected in with, and who's sitting on our line today or listening to this wants to go into a conversation where the focus is on maybe even minute areas where you're not doing so great, rather than really celebrating the strengths that you've brought to the organisation and the role, and really talking about what do we do with that now and how do we move that forward. I know which conversation I would much rather be in.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've shared, it's great that you mentioned that in terms of conversations, because we've shared over the last couple of weeks the coaching models that we use here. You know, what are you proud of? What have you achieved? Where have you experienced challenges? But tell us how you've overcome those challenges. Let's recap and review that. And then recap and review how you might be moving forward. What would you like to do for continuous improvement? How would you like to work that into your development plan over the next 12 months? So all of those great coaching questions come out during this time. And it does give us that uplift in performance that we're looking for over the long term, an increase in engagement, an increase in productivity. You can see the numbers on our website, but just because we have them there on the graph, A lot of you have seen this graph before. I go back to the Gallup research of a 73% uplift, 36% uplift in productivity, an increased engagement, 11% reduction in absenteeism. The statistics and the research really support coaching and the strengths-based approach. And I can see people are jumping here on the chat. Thank you, Ian. Wonderful to have you join us as always. Says maybe we need to change the language. Maybe it shouldn't be a performance review. Maybe it should be a goal review. I like that. Let's do our annual goal review. Let's do our annual review of our goals, annual review of an annual plan to review where we're going to move forward. So it's a great reframe. And what I like about that is it's really quite a growth mindset approach to things, as opposed to a fixed mindset, what you have or haven't done, what's possible. Ignacio, thank you for jumping in. He says, what a great way to encourage team members to continue what they do well. It starts with the positive approach first, and it does. It's encouraging them to identify what they're doing well and to continue that for sure. Thank you. Yeah, a lot of people saying they're resonating with what you're saying here. Marissa says you took the words right out of my brain, Nat. Yes, I'm channeling you there, Marissa. Hashtag growth mindset. Yeah, so that mindset about accountability, responsibility, what's possible, continuous improvement. We are not just skipping through the daisies and strumming guitars here. We really are talking about actual research. That means that actual research that supports the strengths-based approach to these conversations. 29% increase in profit for organizations that have embraced this kind of approach. And we have seen it. You've heard me use lots of examples where we actually have seen the increases. So that's why it's so important. Let's talk about, a lot of you on the line have seen this, how we're identifying strengths. We use the strengths-based profile. So there are profiles that are available. There are other profiles available out there. They are for free as well. So you don't have to necessarily spend a lot of money. We use StrengthScope. We've been using it for many, many years now. And it is thinking about the different strengths, giving you a visual and a graphic about where you are strong in terms of your relational strengths, your emotional strengths, your executional strengths, and thinking strengths as well. So you can identify strengths by profiling people, as a lot of you have seen. But what I'm more interested in is the coaching questions. So I mean, the obvious thing, Paula, is when we're talking in this space about a strengths-based approach to performance conversations, we have already shared a lot of the questions, but one of the questions that comes back to the basics is what particularly energizes you about your role? What other kind of questions are you thinking about, Paula? And I throw this out to our amazing alumni. There's lots of you on the line today, which is fantastic. Come on, jump into the chat and let's generate these questions. What questions are we going to ask that really bring out this idea during our conversations?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take the growth mindset approach on this one, Marissa. And if we're not skipping through daisies and we do want to talk about things, what about the question about what area would you like to see the most growth in over the next 12 months? What area have you seen the most growth in yourself over the past 12 months? So if we started from there, you've got, they're great questions that look at the back and the forward that says, where have you had the most amount of growth?
Yeah, absolutely. And here come the questions from our alumni. Thank you so much for jumping in. So what drives you to come to work each day? You know, I was having this exact conversation with a group yesterday when I was delivering a presentation, and I said, let's never forget why we get out of bed, why this is so important, why the work you do is so important. And then people go, oh, but you know, my work's not really that important. Well, that's an opportunity, isn't it, that we can have during our conversations. Again, not just the annual conversation, but regular conversations about how you can bring that importance and the link of between your work and how it's important to the organization. Sometimes people don't feel that, but it's definitely the case. So what drives you to come to work each day? Thanks, Patty jumps in and says, what are you doing when you feel most in the flow at work? And I love that. When time is passing, when you think, wow, hasn't the time gone? You are in the flow. You are really focused on your work. So what is it you're doing that enables that flow state? It's a great question. Ignacio, thank you. Straight out of what makes a great coach, what's your superpower? So yes, you'll hear Emma Doyle, our co-author at Win What Makes a Great Coach, talks a lot about superpowers. So we are talking about and I love the little visual here. We can be heroes for just one day. David Bowie, absolutely. Muriel, lovely to see you. Welcome back. You've asked, what's been the most satisfying piece of work you have done, and why has it been so much satisfying? Why has it been so satisfying? It's a fantastic question. Let's reflect back on the past year. What's been most satisfying? Why was it satisfying to you? And how can we bring more of that? Fantastic question. Thank you. And I do always like that proud question as well. What's made you really proud over the past period of time that we're talking about? Remembering that most organizations have biannual reviews as well. So over the last 6 months, maybe they have quarterly reviews over the last 3 months, whatever that might be. Thank you. Yeah, so people are writing down these questions and stealing them. I like it. Thanks, Marissa. Ian has offered a difficult patch is folks about to retire. So this is a great thought as well. So folks who are retiring, transitioning, thinking about the future, and particularly thinking about transitioning as well. Ian's offered, he'd like to ask, what would you like to bring from your outside life into your work? So yeah, what energizes you from your outside activities that you might bring into your work? Or we can definitely have that transition conversation as well around, well, I'm thinking about things, well, what would you like to do to bring your legacy to fruition, over the next period? Or what would you like to do or focus on that's going to let you leave on a high? Those kind of questions around how do you want to leave with grace and dignity and pride, or something like that. We've done quite a lot of transition work, and it's about, not necessarily leaving on a high, but leaving with that sense of satisfaction as well. Marissa says, on a scale of 1 to 10, we love scaling questions. On a scale of 1 to 10, how motivated are you by your day-to-day work? And depending on the number that you get back, what needs to change to increase that number? Thank you. That's wonderful. Thanks everyone for jumping in. Paula, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm also thinking about, I think the retirement group is an interesting one. I also think there's a group of people for whom work isn't their number one priority. So they go to work and they need to be at work, but that's not what energizes them. It's maybe outside interest. But I think it's about talking also about, so given that you've got this amount of time at work, what are some of the things that you want to make sure that we are continuing to do to make sure that this is a great experience for you whilst you're here? Or how do we make the best use of your time whilst you're here? What are some of the things that you would love to be doing given the time that you are here?
I like those questions a lot because, and I almost, I like the way that we might bring that across with us, with a encouraging tone, I suppose, as well. I'm trying to think about a tone that's more encouraging, rather than kind of rah. We're not trying to like rah, energize people. We're really being authentic in our conversations to say, what is it that's actually going to enable you to feel good about leaving each day, given you're going to spend 8 hours or whatever it might be. So what is it that you want to be proud of? What is it that you feel like you'd like to say you've achieved? All of these are really great questions. And as we've talked about, they're not just questions for a once-off conversation. We've talked about a lot over the last 4 weeks around how these can be everyday questions as we start new projects, as we start new weeks, as we start new months, as we start new quarters, and of course, as we start the new financial years as well. Thank you. Well, we've had a really quite energizing conversation. You know, we love generating questions. There's such an opportunity for coaching in this space. Paula, other thoughts you'd like to leave us with? I can't believe the time has gone.
I think the one thing here too is that it's very rare to find an employee for whom you couldn't talk about strengths in a conversation. And we are very honest about the fact that we're not just, we don't gloss over the fact that some people are not having a great time at work, that some people aren't performing in their role. But I think that word performance, and I think Ian hit it on the head, perhaps it's more about you're not meeting your goals. But if you can replace the word too for weakness, I don't tend to use the weakness, but I do like the term, what are some areas that we need to get some development in? What are some areas that we need to get improvement in? If you can change that and be asking great questions and getting the person, I mean, the whole premise of coaching is they've got the answers, and chances are they really do have those answers as to how do we shift from that not necessarily performing at the level that we need, and then move into that performance space. I think the language that we use can help change that, it moving away from weaknesses. How can we leverage your strengths in these areas to improve your performance in those areas? So using that performance, that strengths-based approach for everybody, not just for people that we want to move from middle of the road to high performing. How do we move just performance, the word performance? How do we move your performance into a space where you're having more fun? How do we move your performance into a space where you can be really proud of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I really like that. And these are conversations that we really want to sit down and have, don't we, really? Or offer to the person that we're coaching for them to go away and reflect on and come back and have those conversations as well. As we talked about, they need to be scheduled, they need to be organised, they need to be prioritised. It's really easy for these conversations to be rescheduled because the work gets in the way, or we get busy as well. So we really want to be focusing on these conversations, not just, as you've probably seen, Paula, that tick box, make HR happy, put something in these boxes, write something in there, cut and paste. It's really not the approach that we're advocating. And I can see all the people on the line. I know that we're talking to the converted, but there's probably a lot of people listening to this on the podcast as well that goes, all right, we need to take responsibility for this. As leaders, we want to be the people that people say, they brought out my best, they drew out my strengths. So we also might need to take responsibility to go and speak to our bosses and say, hey, maybe it's time to have these conversations. These are some of the questions I've been reflecting on. So we can take responsibility for our own reviews. We can be those managers that set up those performance reviews for that uplift in performance as well. Well, a very energizing conversation to have at the end of the financial year. Sorry, Marissa's just jumped in with one more question. What does the term performance mean to you? So let's talk about what does it mean to you as well. Thank you. And as I said, a great energizing conversation. This completes our series on performance conversations. You can check back on our blog and pick up all the conversations we've been having. We're going to take a bit of a break and then we'll be back with a new series. So we're looking forward to sharing that with you. And do take some time for yourself. It's quite a reflective time, I think, as well. So a reflective time for us to think back on our performance over the last 6 months or 12 months as well. Again, how do we want to continuously improve, grow, stretch as we go along as well? Thank you, Patty. So it's been a great series. Thank you, Rebecca, as well. So just taking a moment also to share with you, we know there's a lot of people on the line. This new opportunity will really suit. We are now offering level 1 accredited coach trainer, for you to become a level 1 accredited coach trainer. What does that mean? Well, the programs that you've done that you know and love through Open Door, you can now be accredited to train others in your workplace, or you might have a side gig or a side hustle where you want to build a business around coach training. We're looking at all you alumni on the line. We would really love you to join us to really bring, as they say in Air Force, a force multiplier effect to accredited coach training. So you are more than welcome to talk to us, talk to Paula about this offering. We want to create an amazing alumni of accredited coach trainers, delivering the programs that you know and love. So there you go. You can talk to us more about that. With that in mind, we want to say happy financial year. Yes, throw your cash our way if you've got any sitting down behind the couch or in the glove box, or leftover learning and development cash you haven't used. You can, or stationary budget, you can throw all of that our way as well. As we are doing for other businesses and supporting other businesses as well. Thanks, everyone. It's been great to have you on the line. We look forward to catching up with you at our next Coaching Cafe. And as always, thank you, everyone, for joining in, sharing your ideas with us. And Paula, thank you for joining us as well.
Very happy to have been here.